John, have I told you I'm addicted to Carwell's auctions?
You might have mentioned it, yeah.
Well, they're online 6 days a week. They're getting 20,000 fresh vehicles in every month. It's actually one of my best sources of quality stock. Listings have got plenty of photos, service history, and background checks for peace of mind. And you can pay sellers in a click with Carwell Wallet. They even transport your car with built-in protection of up to £25,000.
Well, that's more than you will ever need.
Exactly, John. So, dealers, if you're not on CarWow, you really should get in on the auction. See what I've done, John?
Oh, God.
Anyway, to find out more, sign up for free at carwow.co.uk/partners/auctions.
Welcome back to the Car Dealer Podcast, where we pick our favourite stories of the week and ask an industry guest to choose which were the best. I'm John Ray, and joining me as usual this week is the man that pays my wages. It's James Baggott. James, lovely to see you. I'm contractually obliged to say that.
Yes, you are, John. Thank you for fulfilling your contractual obligations. It's very kind of you. How are you? Nice to see you.
Yes, well, lovely. I mean, obviously, I'm in your house again.
Again. I mean, this is becoming a little bit of a running joke, isn't it? I mean, people probably do think you now live here. Well, you sort of do.
I'm near enough. I mean, I've lived here since Tuesday.
Yeah.
So, and
But there was
I've
a
come
reason
down,
for
of
that.
course. There was a reason for that. I've come down because you needed a lift to Southampton, which is half an hour away. So I've driven 3.5 hours to take you there and back, basically.
It's true. But it was an exciting day, wasn't it? Because first 2 Japanese imports have arrived.
Yes.
So we went to the port to pick them up from an incredibly grumpy man who clearly didn't want us to be there. He told us to arrive at dead on 8 o'clock. We were thinking there was going to be a massive queue of people there picking up imports like us. There was no one there. I think he had about 4 or 5 cars to hand over that day, didn't he? I just think he wanted to flex his muscles somewhat. But it was the first one was a Volkswagen Up. An automatic, and the brand new Suzuki Jimny, which has got no miles on the clock. Well, it's got a few on it now because it's driven it back from Southampton, which was then in sort of an olive green, very, very nice. And Joe obviously won the coin toss and drove that one back, and I drove back the Volkswagen Up. So it was quite nice to see them. Last time we saw them was February the 7th, wasn't it? Today is May the 23rd. We saw them February the 7th when we bid on them in one of them in Yokohama and one of them in Tokyo itself, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah, it's quite surreal because particularly when you see the Up here, well, it just looks like a VW Up in the UK, doesn't it, really, apart from the funny shaped number plate thing.
Yeah.
But, of course, the Jimny, we never actually saw that particular Jimny. It was just a blind buy.
Yeah.
But anyway, there's another 4, aren't there? It's not just these 2.
Yes.
Where are the other 4?
The other 4 are in a container. Or, well, actually, they've been extracted from a container. So the 2 that turned up this week were on the roll-on, roll-off ship, which is just basically a big car park on the sea. And the other ones were in a container packed in there with a load of wires. So they're sort of kind of suspended in different ways, kind of wedged into a container.
It's very Cirque du Soleil, I would say.
Very strange, wasn't it? We saw the photos. Unfortunately, one of them got a little bit damaged in the crossing. They'd used the towing eye on the front of the Polo GTI to string it up, and that sort of rips a hole in the front of the bumper. So we haven't actually seen it yet, but we've seen pictures, haven't we? So we think we're going to have to do a little bit more work on that, which is annoying because I think that's the only car I think I might have a buyer for. Sod's law and all that. But yeah, we'll be picking up those 4. So it's 2 more Jimnys and the Volvo and this Polo GTI on Tuesday, which I'm quite excited about. It'd be nice to see them all. But the big issue now is just getting all of the work done. It sort of dawned on me as they pulled into the showroom what we've actually got to do to get these things ready, and we don't really know what the process is. The process sounds simple, but it's not really. You've got to have them MOT'd, the older ones that 10 years or older, but we're thinking, well, we can send them from an MOT and then we can get the registration plate. But you can't get an MOT if a car hasn't got a registration plate on it.
No,
So thinking,
well, you can, but lots of MOT testers don't like doing it because, like when you take it to a normal MOT place, they put in the reg and it pre-populates all the info. But if it's not registered, they have to manually say it is a VW.
Surely not having a registration plate on it, John, is a MOT failure.
No, but you can do it because I did it with my car as well, my
Yeah.
imported car.
So I
But
mean, it's
it
that
took
sort
quite
of
a while.
headache.
Took a while to find someone who was willing to
Yeah.
spend half an hour filling in a form
It's that
on the
sort of headache
MOT.
we're trying to get ourselves sort of kind of round, really, trying to get our heads around. And our mechanic has been looking at the chimney and sort of just scratching his head, thinking, how am I going to do this? Because it needs a new stereo. It hasn't got one at all. It hasn't got a fog light, obviously, because it's Japanese and it needs one to pass the MOT. And there's just loads of little things that need doing. And obviously, it's a brand new car. He's used to working on 10-year-old used cars. So it's all a little bit of finding our way in the dark, really, at the moment. But we'll get there. We'll get there. But yeah, so no, that's been quite interesting. The used car sales have been very quiet. I'll be very interested to hear from any of our listeners about how they're getting on. Send us a message on LinkedIn. I'll be interested to know whether you're quiet too. I mean, and just like what you do when you are a bit quiet is you just try and analyze it. And we've talked about this on a podcast before. And you try and blame everything apart from what you're doing. I mean, I don't think the weather has helped. You know, the fact it's been really, really nice. I don't think people have wanted to really go out and buy cars. But one of the things that was mentioned to me by some other dealers was Auto Trader has had this stock boost on, where they are boosting everybody's packages. Like ours has gone up from 5 cars, which means you can have 7 to 10 cars. So we've been advertising 10 cars. So a lot of people have said that there's loads more cars for sale on Auto Trader, and it's diluting the market a little bit. So there's more choice for the consumers, which means that the leads are a little bit smaller as a result. So that ends on June the 2nd. I'll be interested to see whether it sort of picks up then. But again, it just goes down to everybody's trying to come up with an idea as to why they're quiet. But we sold a couple of cars this week. We've got a couple of appointments tomorrow, so it's not all bad, John. It's not all bad.
Oh, that's nice. You are running out of parking spaces as well. But
Yes.
anyway. Well, I'm going to introduce our guest now because I'm bored of you talking about car sales. So joining us this week is Arran Duffy from AI Retain. Arran, welcome.
Hello, good morning, guys, and thank you for having me on.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. Nice to see you. You need to tell the listeners where you are because it's far more glamorous than Gosport on the south coast.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. Yeah, so I'm currently in Dubai at the moment, baking in 45 degree heat.
Sounds dreadful. I
It's
really
dreadful.
feel.
Yeah, what a way to live.
I mean, James's Argo doesn't even get to that kind of temperature.
Stop giving away the fact I've got an Argo job. Anyway, Arran, I'm obviously very interested in AI. I'm very interested to hear all about your product. I mean, I launched the Clever Car Collection, our business, with the hope to use AI throughout my business as much as possible. It's proved somewhat difficult in many places. A lot of the stuff that I've wanted AI to do hasn't been able to do, and a lot of stuff I've wanted it to do I haven't been able to put it in place just yet. I've got some exciting things coming for that website and our business on the AI front in the next couple of weeks, but be really interested to hear about what your product does. Tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah, so obviously you hit the nail on the head there. I mean, obviously AI is pretty new to the world in a sense of this sort of evolving technology. For myself and my business partner David, we obviously had a look at this opportunity off the back of our sister company, which is Infinity Auto Marketing, which we've been providing a service to the UK motor industry now for the last 15 years. So the AI company has the call center running alongside it. And to be honest with you, it gave us the ability and the knowledge to go out and tap into this fantastic cutting edge technology and build a platform which is not only cost cutting for our customers, but in which way this works, it's very, very clever to for our customers to really drive down that or drive up that customer retention and drive down things like no shows and things like that. Really, James.
Before we go into the detail, then tell us a little bit about your background. So, I mean, how did you get into the motor trade and this business?
Yeah, so myself and David, obviously, we've worked together now for the last 15 years within the UK motor industry, and we were one of the first contact centres providing this service to UK dealers. From big groups down to some small independent ones as well. That's given us the ability and the knowledge to drive forward with not only the call center, but the AI side as well. So, we're able to save our clients money whilst also increasing their retention. And it gives them an opportunity for the guys that they have at site level to focus on the also important face-to-face side of the business.
So, what do you? What have you ever been in the car dealer world? You know, have you ever been selling cars?
No, actually, this is something that obviously we put together with the contact center, and it's an area that I'm very fond of. It's an area that myself and David have a passion for. Hence the 15 years, and it's just an industry that we really enjoy. And having being able to add the AI, such a clever, slick system into the mix, has just obviously, really made us very happy we can do that for our clients.
So before we go into the AI side of things, explain how the contact center works. What do you actually do for car dealers?
Okay, yeah. So basically, we brand ourselves as an extension to our client's business. Now, James, when a client comes to us, they have their own unique issue, should we say, where we offer services from customer satisfaction survey calls. We offer sales lead generation calls, service and MOT follow-up calls, and obviously we book the appointments in. So where we're at this moment in time is that our agents are cross-trained across all of the CRM and DMS systems across the UK dealer group. So we basically would log into our client's network via a secure system, VPN, things like that, to contact their customers. Not only do we contact their customers, but we make the appointment, we book the loan cars, we do a follow-up call. And we brand ourselves as a natural extension to their business. And that is where our business, we work at the core of the motor industry.
So what sort of dealers use your services? Are they small independent used car dealers? Are they large franchise dealers? I mean, who are they and how do they sort of use it?
It's a mixture of clients that we supply our services to, from your man bands right up until we've had a 9-year relationship with one of the largest dealer groups in the UK, and obviously we're all about relationship, and what we've been able to do with those clients. What started off with just an email, a contact email, and a phone call and a meeting has led on to a 9-year relationship, which has gone from strength to strength. So not only do we put the effort into the larger dealerships, but we also put the same amount of effort into some of the smaller dealerships that come to us with their own unique issues, that may only have 2 or 3 sites. But we don't think anything less of that client than we do of the bigger ones, because everybody's important to us, and we want to make sure that the service we provide is across the board.
So you've started off with the contact call center, helping these dealers make contact with their customers. You've now built on an AI side of that business. There's lots of AI solutions out there, isn't there, at the moment? I mean, explain to me how your AI solution works and how it's going to benefit dealers.
Absolutely, James, and it's a very, very interesting question, because when myself and David set out with the idea to tap into this exciting new sort of revolution and slickness of the ability to be able to not only cost cut, but you don't get things like, the AI agents phoning in sick or anything like that. So from a HR point of view, it's very, very, very good. But not only is that, is that we can offer it at a very cost-effective rate, which is not only good for us because we're happy to provide that service, but we're able to, help our clients cost cut where they can to obviously increase the revenue for their businesses. When we started out with the AI, the original plan was to just do a reminder call, so that off the back of a booking, we would then contact the customer to make sure that the customer was aware of their appointment, because, in today's world, some people forget about their appointments and things. From that, we realised that how very clever this technology is. And today we're sitting on a system that can not only contact the customer, it can make the booking, it can make the date in the diary and the time in the diary. It can send an email. It can inform the customer of how much it is going to be in terms of price and what's involved in the service and the lengths and things like that. So we have grown this very, very quickly over the case of 12 months, James.
So this is an AI solution that is calling customers and talking to them, actually speaking
Yes.
to them.
So
What,
it's just basically exactly how we're having a conversation now.
it's like a robotic. It's a robot talking to a human.
Yeah, but as we're evolving, and I'll be totally honest with you, every day we're improving the system, and we're going to continue to do that because across the world, AI is evolving. It's been around for a little while now, but it's still relatively new. What we're aiming to do, James, and I'll give you a little idea here. So, with regards to the AI system, we can contact 600 customers an hour. You can't do that with a natural human being. And it gives the ability to not only contact the customers at a really, good time for dealers, so that these customers are not falling into the lapsed pot. But more importantly, James, what we have a range of different services, from customer satisfaction calls via AI, service and MOT calls via AI, sales lead generations where we can not only contact the customer, but we can then put them through to a human if they prefer to book a test drive or they want to know a little bit more about the car. It's very clever.
What do the consumers think about this? I mean, what do they think about talking to AI?
It's a very, very interesting question. I think that across the world, people are warming to it. Now, if I told you that some people don't put the phone down, I'd be lying. They do. People put the phone down. People put the phone down on humans, But what the interesting thing is, we're finding that people are more inclined to speaking to a system like that, which is advanced to a high level, where we're able to make a booking in less than 3 minutes. Customers like that. Some customers don't want to be talking on the phone. What happens sometimes with humans, and I'm guilty of it myself, is small talk. This system doesn't do that. It gets to the point, Mr. Customer, you brought a car for us last year, it's due for a service, we're here to book it in for you. That, to me, that's something that I would do because it's fast, it's effective. Look, some of the clients that we work with, their customers are busy. If we're talking Jaguar, Land Rover, Aston Martin, Ferrari, which is some of the brands that we work with, these people don't have time to talk. We're targeting them with a 3-minute call to book their car, and it's efficient. They get the text message and the email, and yeah, it's very slick.
And does the system explain to the consumer that it is AI when it's calling them, or do people mistake it for a human being?
Yeah, we don't inform the customer that it's AI because we're at that point now where we're at a level where we're comfortable with the quality and the speed and the response times that we've got. And I'll be honest with you, that's taken 12 months to get real where we want to be. And like I said, we're evolving every day and we're making changes. But where we're at now, it's a system that we're very proud of. It's a system that has impressed us, not just our clients, but it's impressed us. It impresses me every day when I look at the reports and I see what the ability that this is doing and the conversion rates. And the figures don't lie, James.
Give me an idea then of how dealers are using it successfully. I mean, give me some sort of numbers that can demonstrate how successful this has been.
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, we've been monitoring particularly the no-show events. That's been a real big one for us because the problem that a lot of dealerships have is some dealerships are working on sort of a 4 to 6 week lead time, and they like the idea of phoning the customer a couple of days before. But as I was saying, they like the idea. They don't always get around to doing that. And there's several dealers that will own up to that and say, look, we aren't, we're not, we just don't have the staff. We don't have the budget to employ someone to sit there and phone up all these customers. And you have fallout off the back of it. We're seeing some, 50 to 60% increase in, retaining these no-shows. And for the cost effectiveness of what we're about, we charge a range from anything from 25 pence to 50 pence a call. Judging on what we're doing, what sort of project it is, how much quantity of data we're looking at, and things like that. Because larger quantities means that we can do the customer a little bit better, a better deal. So yeah, I mean, and we're looking at a 50 to 60% conversion rate on that, a turnaround on those appointments, which is. It's magnificent.
And in terms of how far you think AI can go in this industry, I was at a conference last week where there was an AI session, and there was a lot of talk about it replacing jobs actually in the automotive industry. I mean, it sounds like this is a product that could do just that. It could
Yeah,
help. It could help dealers with their overheads in that front, which is not a nice thing in some respects. Some dealers be worried about that,
yeah.
especially people who work at dealers. But my point on this is, and the point that came out from the conference was actually AI should be used as a way of improving efficiency, so those people can do other stuff for your business. I mean,
Yeah.
what's your take on that whole point?
Look, I think, James, when AI was originally announced, and it's quite scary for people. Not only is it replacing people. The problem is when people don't quite understand technology and they don't delve into it like we have and things like that. It's quite frightening, something coming out of the blue like this, and technology is just going through the roof. However, it's the benefits of it that are more interesting of it. It's not necessarily do I think that in my lifetime AI is going to take over everybody's job and everybody's going to be sat around doing nothing. I don't think that we're at that level at the moment. But where we're at and what we're seeing is the levels of cost cutting. I'm not going to pull any punches. The UK at the moment, with obviously the rise in taxes, it's costing businesses a lot of money. When we're able to go to a business and cut their costs by 40 to 50%, and that's not a made up figure. That's something that we're seeing. We're sitting down with after sales directors, marketing managers. They can't believe their eyes when we tell them how much it's going to cost, because, and it's sad. Look, it's sad that somebody might be out of a job. Unfortunately, the business has to do what's best for that business at that time to stabilize. If two people lose their job, it's better than the whole business collapsing and 500 people be out of work. And sometimes that's just the way that it is, James. And with introducing things like this, they're not looking at it because it's AI and it's clever. They want to know how much it's going to cost. They want to know what savings they're going to be making. They're getting their pen and paper and they're doing the maths. And this is what we're about. As a business, we strive to save our clients money. Why do it? Why do it if not?
How far do you think? How far do you think AI can go in its reach and in helping car dealers? I mean, this obviously, I can see this as a very real benefit for dealers, especially making 600 calls an hour is impossible, as you say, unless you've got a massive team of or a huge call center. It's just not possible. How far do you think AI will reach into other areas of car dealers' businesses?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that it can be used in a wider area. At the moment, across the world, behaviours are being learned with AI, what it can do, what it can't do, what its strengths are, what its strengths aren't. So at the moment, this is something that we're going through as a business. If I told you that we're finished with what we're doing, we're miles off finished what we're doing. What we're doing at the moment is we've launched it into an industry that we're passionate about. We've launched it into an industry that whereby we've already got a business that's seen some 15 years relationship with our clients. And if I can knock on my client's door and say, here you are, this is what I can offer you and this is what it's going to save you, then of course that's what we want to achieve. If I walk into a dealership in 20 years' time and a robot sells me a car, then so be it. How will it get to that level? Maybe, yeah, of course. You've only got to look at places like China and Japan and stuff like that. Now they've got AI doctors and things. I mean, I don't know. That'd be quite scary, but it's not scary when you're booking an MOT or a service.
No, I can. Yeah, I can well see how it can help out, and it's been from our side. It's been fascinating to see where it can and can't assist in the business. Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to more AI journeys. Well, thank you for that. Thank you for that update. Really, really interesting to hear about the business, and thank you for sticking around for our quiz. But I think we should probably do some stories, John.
Yes. So James and I are going to run through our favourite stories of the week, and at the end, Aaron gets to decide which one of us chose the best ones and who is the winner. I think I won last week, did I not, James?
Yes, I think you did. Yeah, it was just a really rubbish story, and you just sort of cheated. But yeah, you definitely won. Yeah.
Lies. Right. Well, I'm going to start with BCA and Aston Barclay. So as we know, BCA has effectively has taken over Aston Barclay. I don't know if that's completed or not.
No, they have not, John. They're not allowed to. Not allowed to.
Well, this is where I'm going to talk about it, James. But anyway, Aston Barclay is supposed to be being taken over by Constellation BCA. But as is usually the case when two large organisations get together, the Competition and Markets Authority has stepped in to say, whoa, hold on there a minute. Let's take a look at this. Let's slow things down. Let's put on some jazz. They've not said that. But what they have said is they're a bit worried that this can, as the name suggests, reduce competition in that particular sector. And I will say that's not particularly unusual. We come across these things quite a lot. I mean, the CMA operates across the whole spectrum of business in the UK, so you usually hear about them sticking their oar in when it comes to things like big phone networks combining, or I don't know, insurance companies, whatever, supermarkets, that sort of stuff. But it seems they're also interested in things like auction houses. And in fact, they have raised things before. I think it was BCA buying SMA a few years ago. They raised a few objections to at the time and launched an investigation. But that was a bit more specific. It was just competition with the Newcastle, apparently. This seems to be much more wide ranging. It's just in general, they're worried about the combination of the two. So they have launched an investigation, which is a bit of a pain in the backside for BCA and Aston Barclay, trying to get on with the merger or whatever it is that they're trying to do. Because effectively everything has to be paused. So the CMA have said, stop right there. Do not do anything while we investigate. Don't move staff between one company and another. Don't try and integrate all your systems. You have to leave everything exactly the same and retain all your branding as it is currently. So for those people that are waiting for Aston Barclay to, as BCA have, stop providing physical auctions, that can has definitely been kicked down the road a bit if they are planning to do that in the first place. So all must continue as is for a little while. And I mean, it gives me a little bit of hope that maybe things won't all get subsumed by BCA, but realistically, I would say a good majority of the times that we've written about the CMA getting involved in things, they investigate, they perhaps make a few suggestions of what would need to happen for them to be happy. Those criteria are usually met, and then the takeover happens and we all move on with our lives. So quite likely, I would say this is going to happen as well, because BCA as a behemoth is much bigger than Aston Barclay. And I don't really think, I always think of the CMA as like, well, here's Vodafone and here's Three. Can we combine the two, or does that really, cause massive issues with competition and so on? Because they've both got lots and lots of customers. I think Aston Barclay has got fewer customers, shall we say, than BCA. I don't think it's quite such a big deal, personally. But what did you think, James?
Yeah, I covered this in my Substack this week. I was, well, firstly, quite surprised that the CMA got involved in this. I think that they have called it. Their concerns are a potential over a substantial lessening of competition, were their words. Now, I sort of get that. That is their remit, isn't it? That's why they get involved. But Aston Barclay had 5 sites. We're not talking, 50. We're talking 5. They were a reasonable sized, or are a reasonable sized auction house, but they're not huge. This is not.
No, they're not. They're not Mannheim either, are
no,
they?
exactly. This is not BCA and Mannheim combining. So I was quite surprised that they have done it. And I do just think this is a matter of process. I think they will look at it. They will possibly off the back of somebody moaning. A motor trade person might have just brought it up and said they're not very happy about this. Constellation Automotive Group is huge and has taken up huge parts of this industry. And maybe this was just a bit too much to swallow for someone, and maybe they raised it with the CMA. I don't know if that's how it works or not, but it does feel a little bit like this, doesn't it? I don't think they will do anything other than maybe ask them to not take all of it. Sometimes they say, can you just sell off one site that is a little bit close to another one? I don't think this is going to block the deal completely. What my question on this is, what happens now? Like you've rightly pointed out, haven't you, that everything has to be paused. They're not allowed to integrate any systems, but Aston Barclay obviously needed to be sold. So what happens now? Do those sites sit empty? They can't go back to selling cars. They're not going to just start up again all over again, are they? So,
well, I think they just continue operating. I think they continue operating as 2 separate businesses.
Are they operating now?
As I understand
I
it,
don't
yeah.
know. I mean, I don't know. Some readers, please write in. Yeah, I'm not. I'm not 100. I'm not 100% sure. I'm pretty sure it's probably all stopped and just ready to be taken over. And this is. It feels like this is a pause that probably needed to happen a little while ago before this. Before this was all announced. But yeah, I can see it still happening though, John.
Yeah, same. Aaron, what did you make of this? If you saw this, I mean, off in Dubai, I'm sure auction houses in Birmingham and Chelmsford are the least of your concerns, but
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'll be totally honest with you. Yeah, I haven't seen a lot around that, and it's not sort of an area that we sort of focus on. So sometimes it doesn't grab your attention as much. When I see dealer groups who acquire sites and things like that, it's I look at that because obviously it's good news for the industry, and it's just nice to know that the industry is going strong. Of course, it has its issues like any sector, but yeah, it's good news.
We'll be right back. Now, John, I'm really enjoying how easy it is to pay sellers on CarWow.
I mean, presume you'd rather not pay them at all.
No, that is true. But now I can do it with CarWow Wallet. You can pay sellers, finance houses, and more instantly, literally in one click. It's secure, easy to use, and gets rid of all the pesky finance back and forth. It's a total game changer, John.
That does sound pretty good.
If you want to find out more, dealers can log on to carwow.co.uk/partners/carwow-wallet. Now, back to the podcast. Right, I will move us on, and I'm going to pick a story, John. This is slightly kind of.
You're going to pick a story? Wow, James.
No. Shut it! I hadn't finished speaking yet. This is a slightly unorthodox way of doing things, but I'm going to pick one from my Substack, and this is a little bit of news.
Hang on a minute.
I'll read
just
this.
Excluded everyone that's not paying you £10 a month. James.
No, because there is a free access for your first option. Is
Right,
available.
okay.
Available on our website. Anyway, this is news about Chinese car manufacturers and some chats that I had at the motorway conference last week, and with a few dealers off the record about how worried they are about how these dealers are. How these Chinese manufacturers are sort of running rampant. And we had a long talk about this, didn't we, last night, John? We met up with a few of the guys from Car Dealer magazine, and we were talking about China and just like how they are taking over this industry. And we've talked a lot about it on the podcast. But the reason that I wrote about it is because Peter Vardy was on the stage at the motorway conference, and he was quite vocal in how concerned he was about holding those franchises in the past. Do you remember he had 3 Omoda franchises, an MG one, and I think he had, what was the other one he had? Aura. Sorry, he had Aura as well. So 3 Chinese brands he was representing. He warned on the stage that there are some cultural differences, is what he called it, that meant the Chinese had some different views on contracts to how we usually operate.
Hang on. It's not a cultural difference. That's a legal difference.
Well, your words, John, not mine. He was slightly concerned that he said they've got a perception of contracts, and their perception of contracts are completely different to ours. He said you could fall out about that and say you disagree, but that's just a difference of trading. You have to go into your relationship with the Chinese with your eyes open, and it's sort of just. He's clearly sold all of them up, hasn't he? He invested very quickly into 3 of these Chinese brands, operated them for a little while. I wonder whether he just didn't like what he saw, didn't like the way that he operated, and backed away when he could. Privately, number of dealers that I've spoken to are saying that they are, the Chinese brands do operate in very different ways. They've got very different business practices. One Chinese car brand franchise holder I spoke to, again, who will remain anonymous, said their pace is relentless, and what they expect from them, us, i.e. dealers, is absolute devotion and just more and more. He said they think we're lazy, and they fully expect to take over here very soon. I mean, what we were talking about last night was, do we think someone will have to step in and do something about this. And by that, I mean tariffs. I hate the word because we've used it far too much in this podcast. But, at the moment, the UK, they've got unfettered access to the UK, haven't they? It's completely unhindered. They can bring as many cars as they want to in. They can undercut all the established brands. And it does give them a distinct advantage. The Chinese car brands are backed by China, the state. They've got a huge amount of funding and help. Is that a little bit unfair when they come here to the UK? And is that giving them an unfair leg up? It's questions that people have been asking and stuff that, I mean, sometimes people are not saying on the record because they're a little bit worried and probably trying to get the franchise, John. But it's stuff that keeps on coming up. I know we talked about it at length, didn't we? I mean, what were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I don't want to contradict what we've said before. I think when it comes to the tariffs, you get sort of two schools of thought, don't you? You get people that want to protect European and UK car industry, and you get people or organisations that would argue that, well, particularly around electrification, more choice is needed, and really, the more options you give consumers by not putting tariffs on things, the better it is for everyone, because your BYDs and so on come over with a car that costs 30 grand that a European car would be 45 or whatever. And that bucks the ideas of European car manufacturers a little bit up. And I think there is some truth in that, because you look at people like Renault and so on. I know we had a very strange argument the other day about how much a Renault Twingo should cost, James, but 17 grand is a very cheap electric car. I know it's not as cheap as the Chinese, but I sort of would argue if the Chinese hadn't come along with their range of very cheap cars, manufacturers like Renault would not be pricing and designing their cars in such a way as to make them as affordable, I will put quote marks around that, as they perhaps are. Look at what electric cars cost, I don't know, 5-10 years ago. They have the prices coming down, and some of that is technology getting cheaper, I know, but I think a lot of it is they are designing things in such a way that they can be more affordable. So I think that's good. But even that aside, you cannot compete with the prices that cars can be made for in China. Some of that is to do with, I don't know, cheaper manufacturing, perhaps. Some people will say it's not any cheaper to make them in China, but clearly it must be. And also there's this argument around state subsidies in China. Are car makers in China, most of which are owned by the state, let's not forget, are they being given a helping hand to go and take over the world? And if they are, I think that's quite a reasonable thing to then put a tariff on. However, what I will say, and as I said last night over our Pizza Express with our colleagues, James, is you can put a tariff on these cars, as Europe has done. So in Europe, for example, tariffs on Chinese cars differ based on the manufacturer, based on how communicative they've been with the European Union, shall we say. The worst affected one is SAIC, which is MG's maker. So MGs in Europe have a 37.5% tariff on them. But I mean, if you go on like MG Germany or something and look at the prices of them, they're more expensive than here, but they're still not that expensive. I'm looking at an MG HS PHEV here, which is like I don't know, slightly bigger than a Qashqai, would you say? Qashqai sized thing. It's still only like 33 grand for a PHEV, even with the tariffs, as far as I understand it. So there's still margin to eat into those tariffs.
Do you think there'll be tariffs here, or do you think they will ever put tariffs on Chinese cars coming in here?
Well, I don't know. I mean, tariffs is a subject way beyond my abilities to work things out.
If you're a betting man, what would you say?
I think if they happen, it won't happen for a few years. I think it would have to take the whole automotive industry to go to the government and say, look, we really need some help on this. And then maybe in a year's time, the government will go, oh, okay, actually, maybe we better do something about this. It seems to be very slow moving here in terms of...
I suppose the difficult
and no
thing...
one's making... The thing is as well, no one's making any noise about it here, I don't think.
No. And they're bringing in EVs, which is what the government wants everybody to be driving. So cheaper EVs is
I think if you're Nissans and your BMWs or your Toyotas or whoever else makes things here, I think if they knocked on number 10's door and said, look, this is a real problem, maybe something would happen. But
yeah. Aaron, what did you think? What do you think of the Chinese car market? And I mean, and the impact it's probably going to have on the UK?
Yeah, I mean, I think, without being too negative, we, as a country, we only have to blame ourselves because, why aren't we doing that? And you have to take your hat off to places like China because they've beaten us to it. It's as simple as that. Manufacturing in the UK has shrunk, unfortunately. And, firms like JLR and Nissan and Ford. And you see it quite often now that, from a manufacturer's point of view, they're struggling. And I think from the government's point of view in the UK, there should maybe have been an inquest to get to the bottom of what support they need and how we can increase manufacturing in the UK. It's not just in the car industry, though, is it? A lot of things have gone overseas for various different reasons. And then you get into that level then where it's not being made here anymore. And then you're into that tariff section again. So, yeah, my sort of outlook on it is that, in a way, good on China because they've picked it up, they've ran with it. Yes, and from a consumer's point of view, they're offering a decent vehicle at a decent price.
Is there much of a Chinese representation in the car market in Dubai?
Yeah, massive. Yeah, and actually, funny you should ask the question because on a daily basis I see vehicles here in Dubai. And you know what Dubai is renowned for, it's Lamborghinis and Rolls Royce. But some of the vehicles that are travelling on the road here now for £20,000 in sterling is remarkable. Really nice vehicles. There's no denying that. And it's a shame that they're not built in the UK. And that's just where we're at. But yeah, fair play to China for taking that and running with it.
Well, John, that's mine. Over to you.
Okie doke. I will stick with electric cars, I think, and talk about your chat with Nissan's new boss, formerly of Vauxhall, James Taylor, who, of course, had the grilling from James Baggott when he turned up at the micro reveal event somewhere in East London, which is not an area that James tends to go. So well done for making the journey all out there, James. More than 5 miles from your house.
Anything on behalf of this podcast, John, you know that.
But anyway, you asked Mr. Taylor, of course you did, about all things EV incentives and what would he like to see to make things a bit easier for retail buyers going out and buying an EV, of which there are not many at the moment, let's be brutally honest. And sort of unsurprisingly, he said the same thing that he said when he was at Vauxhall, which is cutting VAT is the thing that makes the most sense to him. So I thought it was interesting to see him say that. Equally, he didn't really have much of a choice but say that, because you can't really say one thing at one manufacturer, hop over to a job at a different one, and then say, no, I've completely changed my mind about this now, 3 weeks later. So I can sort of see why he's saying it. What did you... I mean, I'm going to take it... I'll hand it over to you, James. What did you make from your chat with him, rather than me going through this story?
Well, John, I'll refer you back to this week's Substack, where it's in quite written about it in detail. Can you tell I spent a lot of time this morning writing this Substack? Yeah, you can. Excellent. Promotion over. No, I really felt for James Taylor, if I'm honest. This poor guy has been in the role 2 weeks.
And then he had to meet you. It's terrible, isn't it?
Yeah, then he had to meet me in London. No, and he was thrust in front of a panel of journalists at this micro launch, where he opened the show. Had to give as MDs normally do, and had to give the presentation about how the brand's been going and where the brand's going to go and move forward. And he obviously had some slides, and it was obviously well rehearsed. But then after that, they did a series of round tables, and there was only about 10, 15 of us there. So they were quite small groups of us chatting with them. And I was in the first group that chatted to James Taylor. And he was asked some really difficult questions. I mean, not from me. I asked the pretty normal ones, but there were some really tough ones. And I sort of felt for him. There was a couple of judges getting a little bit annoyed that he wasn't kind of answering their questions properly. And I just thought, come on, give this guy a break. He's been in the job 2 weeks. I mean, there's not many MDs who'd roll out and stand in front of journalists. But he he stuck with that party line that he's had throughout his career, which is that he does think there's incentives needed for the EV market, and I agree with him. I do actually think the VAT cut is the right horse to back. I think, and we've spoken about this before, it is sort of disproportionate, isn't it, in terms of no, it's not disproportionate because it's certainly not.
It
But
is
it's unfair.
proportionate. It's literally
It's
proportionate.
proportionate.
Yes.
Yes, it's proportionate, but it's unfairly weighted, is what I'm trying to say, towards those expensive cars. You get a bigger discount on a Taycan or an expensive Audi electric vehicle, when those people are much more inclined to be able to want the car in the first place and be able to afford it. So really where we need the help is at that lower end of the market where people are a little bit shy when it comes to going to an EV. But the VAT cut is one that it's fair across the market, isn't it? I think. I don't think we should be going back to a plug-in car grant. I don't think it would be enough. And what he was really saying in this interview was that actually what history has proven is if you give people a discount that is sort of time limited and a reasonable amount of money, people do act. And he harked back to the scrappage scheme where, and one of his points was actually really interesting. It was a £2,000 discount, wasn't it, if you scrapped a car off a new one. And he was actually saying that a lot of the manufacturers were already, before the scrappage scheme came out, giving that discount anyway. But it was the fact
and
that
£1,000 came from the government, and £1,000 came from the manufacturer, wasn't it?
And the fact, but what his point was that a few weeks before scrappage was available, you could have got a discount like that anyway if you'd asked. But it was the fact that the government backed this and pushed it that people went out there and spent their money, and the scrappage scheme really did work. So I do think something's needed, and I do think slightly our foot is off the throttle a little bit because the ZEV mandate has been watered down a bit. So I think the fact that it's been watered down means we probably won't get any help anytime soon, and it won't come until we get a lot closer to the deadline, at the point where we're not getting anywhere near the targets and we really, really need the help.
I personally don't like the VAT cut.
Do you
for
not?
all reasons.
What would you do then?
Well, the thing with the VAT cut, as you said, is it's proportionate with the value of the car. But I sort of think it's, as you say, bigger cars like your mad Audi that you had, 135 grand. Well, it doesn't cost Audi 135 grand to make that car, does it? So there's a lot of margin in there for the manufacturer. The people that are buying that car don't really perhaps need so much of a discount, I would say, perhaps, compared to the sort of person that wants to buy a Micra like you were looking at yesterday. So if it were me, I would do a sort of, well, actually, I say this, the plug-in car grant was slightly proportionate up to a point, because you had your 5 grand limit, whatever it was, and it was proportionate up to a maximum of 5 grand, which was sort of clever-ish. So it gave you a chunk of money off, and the more expensive car you bought, you got more money off, but, with a limit. The thing with the plug-in car grant as well, and the scrappage scheme, is that it's relatively easy to understand. It's easy to shout about 5 grand off an electric car. Great. Okay, lovely. I can take that and wander down to a showroom and I know I'm getting 5 grand off. If you say, take the VAT off, it's a little bit sort of like, it's not very sexy to start with, is it? To shout about that whatever you do, if you're going to do an incentive like this, it needs to be like the scrappage scheme, and you need to really shout about it in the national press and all that sort of stuff. And it needs to have a kind of good tagline that gets people going, right, okay, for the next 8 months or whatever it is, I'm going to get a discount on a car and I'm going to go and buy one right now. That's what it needs. Otherwise, there's no point at all. If no one knows it's happening, it's been a whole pointless exercise. So that's why I like something that's a little bit similar to the, let's say, the successful schemes that we've had before, which were scrappage and the other one, plug-in car grant. As for, I don't know how much money you need to take off, though, to be brutally honest. And I suppose what I don't like about any of these things is that, from, as you alluded to there, it's money that the manufacturer might have taken off anyway. And I think what we've learned, and I mean, I'm not in a manufacturer head office, so I don't know what the margins are looking like on a lot of these cars. I'm sure for some manufacturers, let's say Stellantis, who've decided to equalise the cost of an EV and a petrol version of a Frontera or whatever it is, they are bargaining on losing a bit of money on electric ones and making a bit more on the petrol ones, because that's still where the margin is. But I think it's amazing every time you do something like, for example, introduce a luxury car tax at 40 grand. It's amazing how many manufacturers suddenly go, oh, actually, we can actually make it for less than 40 grand now,
Yeah.
just to slide it under that barrier. It's amazing what a bit of legislation does to enliven car manufacturers into action.
Can I link my next story to that story, and then we
Sure.
can sort of. I'd just like to talk about the new Micro a little bit.
I was just going to
because,
ask, what did you think of it?
Yeah, I actually quite liked it, and we discussed this at length last night over dinner as well. What a boring dinner we had last night.
But crucially, James, it did mean we can expense it. So
yes, true. Yeah, very good, very good. If you're a taxman listening, the new Nissan Micra is based on the new Renault 5. It's built in the same factory. It looks dimensionally very, very similar, but Nissan have put a very unique slant on it. I mean, there were parts of it that have really split opinions, but I really like the kind of LED lights they've done. They're harking back to, I made a note, it was a K12. It was that sort of, which is the slightly bubble car looking Micra that was very, very popular. I mean, did you know that they've sold 1 million Micras in the UK now? I mean, that is a lot of cars. That's a lot of Micras. 3 million of them across Europe. So a very popular car. But my question to them was, the Micra's always been seen as the sort of kind of blue rinse mobile, hasn't it? You know, it's been bought by. Well, I mean, it's been bought by older people, hasn't it? Really, I mean, it's older people, and then later down the line, younger people as a first car. This is a very, very different model because it's all electric. It's got 2 different battery sizes. It's got about 250 miles range on the top one. It looks very funky. It seems to me that it's going for a very different audience than the traditional Micra. I think if they put a different badge on it, we would have gone, oh wow, that's a funky new car from Nissan. But the fact that they put the Micra, it just feels like, cool, that's brave, because it takes it away from its existing buyers. And the Micra's been off sale for 3 years. I didn't realise that myself. So there's been quite a gap there. So they had the ability to give it a new name. I don't know. I think it's quite funky, John. I like the looks of it. They had a red one at the reveal, and there's this blue, very flat blue that they've got it in. And in these 2 flat red and the flat blue colours, it does look very, very smart. And the interior is really good. A big double screens. It's got the Google all built in that your Renault Long-Termer had before. It's a big departure from Micras of the past, that's for sure.
I'm not entirely convinced about it, I have to say. I think you have to view it through the lens of I know Nissan will say that they collaborated from Renault from the start when it came to producing this car. I think if you not like been within 3 feet of it, you have, but I think it's quite clear it is a Renault with some tweaks laid over the top. And don't get me wrong, I'm a fan of a rebadged vehicle, as you know from my Mazda 2 hybrid Long-Termer. I very much enjoyed. Thank you, Mazda/Toyota. But
so they hadn't even tried with that, though, had they?
No, they hadn't really tried with that. Not really. I mean, there's more effort in this, but if you get inside that Micra, it is a Renault 5, isn't it? Like, there's not, short of the baguette holder, they've not changed a huge amount in there. All the hard points, as they say, are the same. All the touchscreens the same. All that sort of stuff. They've not actually even changed the software, as far as I can work out, which is a little bit disappointing. But I kind of think it's one of those cars where they had an opportunity to borrow what is a very good set of underpinnings and body and platform. You know, they've not changed the suspension. It's all exactly the same. They had the opportunity to borrow it from Renault and sell it as their own, and they've gone, yeah, let's do that, because why wouldn't you? I think that's fair enough. But yeah, I would have been tempted to call it something other than Micra as well, because I think Micra, to me, has a bit of baggage attached to it as a name, and I don't think this poor car should be referred to as the Micra. That said, we still think of Micras as the little bubble ones, like the K12 and the K11. I think was one before that, wasn't it? The one that was actually the really rounded square thing. There has been one in between, and I don't think anyone paid any attention to it, which was effectively a French-built, like Renault Clio type thing. which I don't think sold very well. And it's not because it was terrible; it's just because everyone's moved on from super minis, unfortunately.
I mean, John, when we started this podcast, if someone said you would be talking for at least 5 minutes about a micro, I would have said it's probably
It's
not
very
going to
interesting. You would have said,
probably
yes,
not
he
going to
will
be a
do
hit.
that.
Oh,
I don't know.
Aaron, we've waffled on there about micros and EV incentives. I mean, what's your take on either?
Yeah, I mean, no, absolutely fine. Just want to sort of echo what John was saying. There's a lot of you see a lot of vehicles now which are modelled pretty much the same with a different badge. That's becoming ever so more popular now, and the different, differentiation in price and all that sort of stuff. I think those sort of vehicles now are becoming a little bit more affordable. If someone's about having a first car, if you remember, obviously when they took the step to touch screens, sat navs, things like that, people brought their new car for those reasons. Now, even your budget vehicles have got Apple Play and Bluetooth and touch screen and everything like that. I think nowadays it's just a case of comfort. If you want to go up market, it's a case of comfort and almost a fashion statement in some senses. But yeah, like I say, I echo that there's a lot of similar vehicles as you were saying there, John. But they have done some nice work with the Nissans. I actually remember the very, very old model, the sort of round sort of shape. It wasn't a very particular nice looking vehicle. So they have come a long way. Yeah, quite impressed with some of the new models.
Yeah, it was quite goofy looking, the original one. What I will just say at the end of this, because I'm going to round us off so I don't have to do the story and imbalance the podcast.
Okay, yeah, got
because
you.
we've reached done two. What I will say is, I think Nissan haven't announced the pricing, have they? But I've seen hints that it's going to be more expensive than the Renault 5, and they want to make it a more premium offering, which I think is a slight mistake. But only time will tell on that one. Make it the same price. That's my 2 cents.
I'm
James,
sure they're listening. That was my story, John. So I wedged the micro one. So it's actually back to you.
Oh, I don't want to squeeze another one in, but I will, just to make it unbalanced and so that I can win. So news from Marubeni Auto Investment, aka Norton Way, aka another dealer group that I've forgotten, RRG. Jason Cranswick, who of course we had on our car dealer live stage earlier this year. God, it feels like a long time ago, but it was earlier this year.
2 months ago. 2 months ago.
Yes, God, it was earlier this year. Anyway, he has now stepped down from his role at Marubeni Auto Investment and Norton Way. He was an MD at Norton Way and also Chief Operating Officer at Marubeni. And he'd been there for, quite a while. But he's announced that he stepped down for the roles at the beginning of May, surprisingly, which we weren't aware of. And it sounds, he's been very he put a statement on LinkedIn, saying very nice things about his time there, et cetera, and what he's got planned next. I mean, the thing I took away, because I like every time someone leaves a company, you sort of think, where are they going now? You're not retiring, are you? So where are you going to end up next? And I noticed that he said he'll be spending time over the next 3 months, we've written here, completing training and working on his own personal development as well as finishing a book. Now, 3 months to me sounds a little bit like gardening leave, doesn't it, James? What do you think?
It does. It certainly does. But we wish him well. I like Jason a lot. He's a very, very nice guy, and he was very good at Car Dealer Live. John, can I wedge one last one in? I know can I just be very quick on it, but I think it's an important one.
Okay.
So I just want to talk about Greenhouse's results, the dealer group Greenhouse. Their accounts were posted this week, and they had a fantastic 2024. We've been talking a lot about car dealers' results being down last year. They actually improved profit by 16%, up to £30.5 million. Turnover also soared by 20%. Up to 1.8 billion, and that was boosted, they say, by improved fleet and retail sales, which were up 25% and 39% respectively. I mean, a very, very impressive result. Danny Minchell sent these results over to me earlier this week, and we had a chat on the phone. He was clearly very, very proud of them, and rightly so. I mean, I think these are fantastic results for that business, and I think it comes as a result of the fact they are very diversified. I mean, they've got lots of different arms to the greenhouse business, and it shows that when you do diversify a business, if some parts of it are not performing, other parts can certainly take over. They've signed up some new brands in the last couple of years: Moda, JQ, Corvette, Citroen, Peugeot, Leap Motor, and BYD. And they're actually predicting even more growth in 2025. So I think they should be incredibly proud of those results. I think by the end of this year, when the Car Dealer Top 100 comes out, £30.5 million pre-tax profit will look very, very good indeed. So, yeah, congratulations to those guys.
Very much, because it's rare to see us talking about a story from last year's results and saying things are up.
Indeed.
Wow.
Good news. I think really good news, guys, isn't it?
Yeah.
Very, very well organised and structured dealer group. And as I say, we've had some really interesting conversations with them ourselves in the past. And yeah, it's really good to see that they're going from strength to strength, because, as I say, it's a field that we're quite passionate about. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Congratulations to those guys. But that's it, John. I'm out of stories, and I think we might be out of time.
I think we are. I mean, I will say, when you said greenhouse, I thought you might be about to talk about your tomatoes.
I have 10
pigeons at the mall.
No, don't worry. That's fine. They're trapped away from the pigeons. Safe.
Well, so Arran, before I ask your verdict, are there any other stories you think we should have talked about this week?
No, do you know what? You covered some really good. Areas. Including like obviously James. Covering the manufacturing side and the Chinese sides of things there. That's always very interesting for me. Just anything around the car industry in the UK. Because of our business. So I think we've covered some really good stories.
Well, you're on the right podcast, unless James starts talking about gardening. So I'm going to have to ask you, who chose the best stories? Who's your winner?
This is really difficult. I mean, let me throw you a curveball. What about if I say both of you?
Oh God, no, you're going to have to pick.
All right, okay.
I mean, what's your favourite story, if that helps, rather than which one of us?
I had a... Yeah, it's funny. My favourite story was the manufacturing side, unfortunately, John. So, as I say, it just got interesting. So, I'm going to have to give it to James. I'm sorry, John. I thought you had some really good, input and some good stories.
Don't apologise.
Some lose some.
Yeah, I will take the win. Thank you very much indeed, John. Unlucky loser this week.
It's all right. I'm going to go and cut all your tomatoes down now.
Oh God.
Well, all that's left for me to say is thank you to Arran for coming on today. It's been great to talk to you about your business and you, and I'm not at all jealous that you're sat in 41-degree heat rather than the paltry 15 or whatever it is here in the sun.
Nice.
It is very nice, and look, I just want to say thank you to you guys for having us on. We have made a couple of appearances on here in the past and things like that, but it's really nice to be back. So thank you so much.
Absolute pleasure. Wish you the best of luck with the business and the AI side of it. Nice to hear all about it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Lovely. And thank you as well to James for my tomato salad that I'll be having for lunch. And thank you for listening. We'll be back next week with another episode. So make sure you're subscribed so you'll be notified when that goes live. Don't forget you can go and watch us on YouTube at Car Dealer Insights if you want to see our faces moving about with words coming out of them. If you want to check out the stories we mentioned today, take a look in the show notes below or head to cardealermagazine.co.uk. Thanks for listening and goodbye.